Welcome to the Fireside gathering of the authors of I Didn't Become Selfish, I Became Harder to Manipulate. I'm Sarah Jane, the lead author, and for this episode I am delighted to be joined by Michol Mae. Michol, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
And Scott Holmes. Scott, thank you for joining me.
Always a pleasure.
Michol is the author of Chapter 8. They just needed more love. My cup wasn't empty, it was broken. Michol, share a little about yourself and why you chose to participate in this book.
Well, Sarah, I am a lifelong recovering people pleaser. And so it really spoke to me. I was in a place in my life where I had realized that I didn't even have a definition for need versus want, and it made it easy for people to manipulate me and hard for me to set boundaries successfully. And I was learning that. And so when your opportunity came to be in this wonderful book, I just felt it in my heart, just knew I had to be a part of it and share all of those little tidbits that helped me get there.
Bless you, thank you. And Scott, your chapter is chapter 14, Taking My Cape Off, Saving Myself Instead of Saving the World. Share a little about yourself and why you chose to participate in the book.
First off, I want to say thank you for you and the way that you put everything together. You made it very easy. I didn't become selfish. I became harder to manipulate. Really resonated. All my life I was taught to serve. I was taught to serve my family. I was taught to serve everybody. Every job I realized that I did was in service to other people. The problem was, if someone needed help, I would put the cape on and ride to the rescue, no matter what was going on in my life or what I needed to do. And it really struck me as I got older how I could change that whole definition of who I was and not have to worry about pleasing everyone else but myself.
And that's just it, isn't it? This is our life and we are meant to live it. And when we are constantly doing for others, we can't do for ourselves. And I suppose the way I've always looked at it is not in the first 40 years of my life, but if I'm constantly doing for others, I can't do for myself, but they're also not doing for themselves. I'm holding two people back by being that people pleaser and constantly being there for everybody. I'm holding me back and I'm holding them back. And so many people just think that word selfish means that, but the people that chuck that word at you, what they're saying is, you're not doing what I want you to do.
Yep.
And so who's the selfish one? So I care very much about people, but I will help people to help themselves. I've got to that point, is help them to help themselves, not to do it for them. Okay, Scott, we're going to stay with you because I asked each of my guests to choose a little topic for us to add to the conversation here. And you've said, when is gratitude used in your life? So share what you mean by that and what you'd like to say about it.
All my life I've felt that I had enough, but I didn't have gratitude for it, which is a bit of a dichotomy. And when I hit my lowest point in my life, I was told, go to an Al-Anon meeting. I'm like, well, I'm not a drunk. I'm not an alcoholic. Why do I need to go? Because Al-Anon is not for that. It's for people to get better. Didn't understand any of it. So I walked into the meeting, and the very first thing is, we're going to work on 4. and that is gratitude. I want you to name 3 things you're grateful for. And at that point in my life, because of how low I was, I could not think of one thing that I was grateful for. Come to now, if you'd have to stop me after the 4th page, because I am so grateful for virtually everything in my life. What appears to be good or bad, it's not so bad. I'm just so grateful for. I live in abundance, I live in care, I live in compassion. And I do it every day. Every night I go to bed, I say thank you for the day, no matter what the challenges have been. But thank you because I have a house, a roof over my head, food to eat, clothing to wear. And in the morning I wake up and say thank you for the opportunity for a new day. It sounds trite. It sounds, I don't know, like holier than, but I'll tell you what, gratitude saved me at that time in my life when I was so low, because it made me look at what I actually had and how much I had. And it changed my perspective, and that allowed me to grow and to come into compassion in my heart.
Bless you. Thank you for sharing. Michol, your thoughts on that?
Well, I can resonate. When I lost my son, my therapist said, I want you to do a gratitude exercise. And the irony was that I used to do this with them all the time. It was a regular part of my life. But being asked to do it in that moment when I was, like you said, at my lowest, deepest grief, I was like, I'm not grateful for anything. And she said to me, well, aren't you grateful for breathing? And I said, no. And yeah, I wasn't. I would give my last breath for my son to be here. I was not grateful for that. And but I did the hard work, and I have to say, because I'm a good student, this was what I had to do. 3 new things every day that I was grateful for. Couldn't be the same thing, so I couldn't say I was grateful for my cats every day. I had to find something that day that made me grateful. And I begrudgingly did it initially because it was an assignment. And by the end of that 30-day time frame, I had shifted back and got a little bit back of myself. And it really was a key turning point for me in my healing journey. So I absolutely resonate with what you're saying. And I have been there, and it is absolutely true. And you're right. It sounds like when you're saying it to someone who hasn't been in the trenches might be like, oh, gratitude again. But it's more than that, because it's retraining your brain to look for those things. It is saying, hey, I'm choosing to look for something that I can be grateful for instead of something that I can be fatalist about. Right. So I think it's amazing, and everyone should do gratitude. Should be here. Do gratitude, everything. I'm grateful for being here with the 2 of you. So.
Do you know, I never heard about the gratitude thing, but somehow when I sort of, after the breakup of my marriage and the loss of the job and the moving from Northampton down to Bournemouth and sitting in my own little house, and it was just like, I am so lucky. So I suppose didn't frame it as a gratitude, but I realized just how lucky I was. And it was, okay, what can I do to give back? And so I did look into adoption, because I don't have children. And that wasn't going to, or was it fostering something? It was fostering, I think. That wasn't going to work. And so I then looked at working with adults with learning difficulties, just as a shared carer. So not somebody I would have on a, sort of 24/7, but just for a few hours once a week to give their actual carers a bit of a break, and obviously take them and do something that was fun. So I was in a place of gratitude, but from a different perspective, I suppose. And I think probably like you, I have my gratitudes every morning. I am grateful for my day, but I also have them at night. It's part of a routine, and even if I'm get up late, thinking, I'm running late, that has to be a part of it. Still has to be a part of my routine in the morning, because it would feel so wrong not to do it. And I dread to think how my day would go if I didn't.
Mm.
Because it starts you with a real positive, doesn't it, for the day? And all of us have been through things in our lives. Everybody has. Anybody that says they've never had anything go wrong in their life, I'm guessing they've forgotten it. They've just wiped it out of their minds.
Yep.
And I know what that's like, because I have so few memories of my childhood, because I was such an unhappy child. Why would I want to remember it? So, yes, being grateful. And in fact, I think I went out for a walk with my niece's dog this morning, and it was just like, oh, I'm so grateful for the light and the warmth of the sunshine. Just something that simple. You said cats. I had cats for 22 years, sort of. I was always grateful for my cats, sort of.
Exactly.
But even if you start with the simplest things, and I think you found that, Scott, did you find it start with the simplest things?
Had to. I didn't have capacity to go beyond that. Honestly, really didn't. And gratitude to this day is part of my everyday ritual. And much like Reiki, much like yoga, it just is an ingrained part of who I am. And it really changes perspective for me on how my day is going to go, how I'm going to view it, and how I view life.
Yeah. Do you find the same, Nicole?
Yeah, I do. I feel like if I can find, I had to start, I don't know if it's small. I don't, you said you started small, and I'm like, is it small or is it really big? Because it was very broad. I was grateful for the sun. Like the sun is shining, and the earth is still turning, and the trees are pretty. And like, it was cosmic stuff that I was grateful for, because I couldn't look internal first, right? I had to, like, I always found such comfort looking at the stars. So I'm grateful for the stars, right? I'm grateful for the breeze that skittered over my skin, like, not to wax poetic, right? But it was that kind of thing that I found myself focusing on initially, and then I was able to draw further in. And I was grateful for the kind words a stranger said, or that smile that someone gave me that made me smile in return, because I didn't know I could still smile, right? So it started like that. It started small, but like cosmic at first, and then the little tiny things throughout the day. And the thing is, they're so stackable, and a lot of people don't realize it, that oh, I'm just having that moment where you're just grateful outside because the sun just warms you for a second, and then later you're just grateful because you got to snuggle up with your cat or your puppy or whatever it is, right? Or your kids. And then you're grateful for another little thing, and oh, I got to have my favorite meal today. And I like that you can, I know not everybody likes to write it down, but the thing is, if you write it down, if you're struggling one day and you're having a really bad day, or you're starting to backslide, you can flip through those pages and remind yourself, oh man, that was really great. And I was really grateful for that. So that's kind of how I view it.
I've heard it said a gratitude jar. And so you put something you're grateful for every day into that jar. And so at the end of the year, if you've only done one a day, you've got 365 things that you've been grateful for
That
in the
sounds
year.
fun.
So, okay, Michol, we're going to stay with you, because your sort of extra little choice was finding peace with curiosity and compassion.
Yeah.
So share a little about what you mean by that.
Well, so we've all been there, right? Where somebody says something and it makes you just tense inside, or look at that person like, why, right? And that's the key. Why, right? Why is this person that way? And that's the curiosity. So what I found was, in the past, I've always been a very curious person. And I ran into someone who was not by nature very curious. In fact, they thought they had all the answers, right? And I was talking with someone about this, and I was like, why do they make me so crazy? And that was the difference. I'm curious. I want to understand you. And I think a lot of people misunderstand what that means. Wanting to understand you is not the same as wanting to agree with you. I can agree with you guys or disagree with you guys, but I still want to understand. So I might be like, Scott, I don't really agree with that, but I understand where you're coming from. And then we don't have to be in a negative space. So I started to realize pretty early on that by being curious, I automatically take myself out of that adversarial mindset and put myself into a curious mindset, which is more open to compassion. And a lot of times that is, believe it or not, I find a key to compassion. I struggled with self-compassion most of all because I have a lot of compassion for other people. But my inner critic voice is like, I don't know, really mean. So we started to work on, well, how can I get that curious feeling about even my inner critic? Like, oh, like when I got my hair caught in the sauna, I knew better. And I was really upset with myself because that could have gone far worse than it did. And I've worked on cars, done construction, I've done all of it. I know better, but if my friend came to me and said, hey, this happened to me, I'm really upset with myself, I would have compassion. And I would be like, well, you know, everybody makes mistakes. Even the people that are professionals in the field make mistakes. Why do you expect yourself to be so perfect? But there's the question, there's the curiosity. Why? Right? So if you can ask why and you can be curious, you can almost automatically step into a place of compassion. And I just think that those two things just make the world, along with gratitude, a much better place.
Thank you, Michol. Scott, your thoughts?
I think, and I wrote a piece about it, but curiosity, I think, is the second strongest after love. The second strongest power we have. When we're young, when we're just starting out, when we're just born, curiosity about everything, because everything is new. How do we walk through life if we're not curious? How do we learn to walk if we're not curious? How do we learn what an arm and a hand and a wrist and all of our fingers do? How are we not curious? As we get older, for some reason, as your friend Michol said, I have all the answers. I know everything already. Why do I need to be curious? I already have the answers. As we get older, why is it that we get it? We have a better understanding of our world, certainly. But do we have that curiosity? And what you said about curiosity with compassion. My dad, as he was getting older, he's in his 80s and he's really limited motion. And so I was over helping him one day and trying to help him get in and out of the bathtub because he insisted on taking a bath rather than a shower. And I was frustrated with it, and he's taking forever. And I was getting that, just getting very short with him. And I stopped for a second. I said, Dad, why does it take you so long? Why can't you just let me help you get in and out? He said, there are so many things that I've lost that I can't do anymore. I enjoy taking a bath, and it takes me longer to get up and down. I know that, and I'm sorry that I'm taking your time. talk about shame, right? And he said, but it's what I want to do, and I can do it for myself. And in that moment, I saw someone struggling with trying to be as true as they could be to themselves. And I walked out of the bathroom and I said, Dad, if you need me, holler. And it just made me realize, because I was curious enough to ask, that he told me that truth. And that was a very unusual interchange between my father and I, because it was always, father son, it's always somewhat combative. Um, but he was able to kind of pull that veil down. And I was so grateful for that. And I saw him in a different way going forward as I helped him and my mom in their home. That I could do things for them, but instead of telling and insisting, I would ask. And that changed the whole dynamic. It made life, by the way, much better as I got older.
That's amazing.
I think that's just it, isn't it? Especially with older parents, but older anybody, to be perfectly honest, is the majority of them do not like losing their abilities to do things. They wish to stay as independent as possible for as long as possible. And I think all of us are going to be exactly the same.
Listen, I am temporarily there, and it was really hard for me because I am a very independent person. I do not like to ask for help. I still don't like to ask for help. And I will have some very serious restrictions. I will not be able to lift, push, or pull anything more than a gallon of milk. My guitars, my bass, some of my instruments weigh more than, you don't even realize how many things weigh more than a gallon of milk until you're told, like, you can't do this. And it was hard, and I struggled really hard with the sense of my sense of autonomy. So I think that's why I thought it was so amazing to hear your story and how you were curious enough to, because I know some people, one of my friends actually looked at me and she goes, because I was like, well, I won't be able to do this and this and this, and I just want to do it all myself. And she was like, and that's why you're single. But she didn't understand that my need for autonomy and my need to be independent come from a sense of security and safety for myself, because I was in situations where people weaponized my vulnerability, and I'm terrified of being vulnerable at that level where I can't defend myself or can't do something for myself. So it's just, if you can be curious, yeah, you can learn. Look, we're all main characters in our own story, and we're all supporting characters in the people that we love story. And everyone has their own reasons and own needs and wants and set of circumstances that sometimes we don't know anything about if we don't ask. And sometimes when we ask, it makes more sense. Like Scott's saying, oh my God, now I understand you better. And now we have a better relationship. And for some people, you might understand them better and be like, go in peace and find your place.
I sort of thinking about different things that have gone on in my life, and I've said this it was just sort of part of a light bulb. I think at one time it was just like, if somebody says something and it's that, oh, and it sort of sparks and it's, oh, really? And it's, don't ask, did you mean what you said? Ask the question, did you mean what I heard? And rephrase it so that you can try and convey what you heard. And at least you're going to have an answer, because they are either going to say, oh, no, I didn't mean it like that at all. Or they're going to say, yes, they did. Then you've got a choice. Because if it's caught something, if it's triggered something in you. But with so many people, when that type of thing happens, what's going on in their life? What's made them say what they've said? It's mostly going to be their stuff. And so I suppose I go into that, and there's a couple of friends, and a whole group of friends that I've got, and there's been a fallout. But one of those particular friends, it's, well, if you're still going to talk to her, then you obviously don't want to talk to me. And it's, if you invite her, I'm not coming. It's just like, oh. And around about the time that the fallout occurred, one of them had gone through, I'm not going to say what happened, but one was going through a trauma of loss, and the other one was going through probably stress over something that was going to happen, and was probably very stressful for them. And so neither was in a good place. And so when you're on the outside of it, you can look and you can think, you can have that compassion. Look what this pair of them were going through. And if they were both in a stressful day, it's only going to take them a couple of words said with a tone of voice that hurt, and you've got an eruption that causes a fallout.
One of the hardest things I think I had to come to the conclusion of was that other people, right, their reactions, I recently said this to someone because they were like, why are you so difficult with asking for help? And I was like, look, it's not personal. I am not saying when people don't show up for me, because this is why I have built this entire problem, right? If you see it that way. But it's not, I don't see it personally anymore, right? When you don't show up and you said you're going to, when you get into an argument with me and feel whatever kind of way, at this point, I came to realize that most of the time, people's actions and what they're saying to you has absolutely very little to do with you, if anything at all, and everything to do with them. So, and life happens. Like, yes, I've been let down. Everybody's been let down, and yes, it's become a trend. And so I have learned to do things myself and then I don't have to worry about it. But in cases where you can't, it is also important to learn who can you lean on. Who are your safe people? Who can you go to? Who can you trust to show up 90% of the time? Because you can't have unrealistic expectations either. People have lives, things happen, accidents happen, something else could be going on. People didn't hear from me for Thanksgiving, but my fur baby was rushed to the hospital the day before. And I was so stressed with what was happening and then getting ready for the surgery that I didn't even really think to message people, not because I didn't love them, but because I just had no bandwidth for that at this time. I really didn't think he was going to make it. And I just wanted to pour all my love into him so that he knew, right? So anybody who was miffed that they didn't get a message from me, right? It didn't have anything to do with them. It had to do with me, right? And I think a lot of people miss that mark, and on the side note for your friend that's like, well, if you're going to pick, I don't do that. I tell all my friends that, listen, two things can be true at once. I can love you and care about them and disagree, right? with the whole situation. And that to me comes across as a controlling and manipulative tactic. And again, maybe not intentional, maybe not even a conscious thought on her part, but she just may be so deeply wounded and fear abandonment that she's just lashing out to prevent that from happening. So learning that it's all, really, it's crazy because we're all our own main characters, but everything has very little to do with us in the same breath.
Any further thoughts, Scott?
I don't know if I can follow that one. But it's about care, compassion, boundaries that we all have to put into place in order to have a sense of calm. I find that lack of boundaries creates chaos, and that's when misinterpretations, miscommunication, and hurt feelings happen because there isn't that clarity of communication. So I love the thought around all of that. Thank you.
But I think that's just it, isn't it? Because of the work I think all of us have done for ourselves and the work we do with others, we've managed to find that compassion first and foremost within ourselves. And it has to start with ourself. And so for people sort of reading the book, the stories, they are real. They are what has happened to each and every one of us. We've shared them because we care about those who are struggling in the way that we did, or in a way one of the others did, whatever. And I think the stories are very valuable, but I think the addition of how these things made us feel, because I think that it's the feelings that people will really understand, because our stories are going to be very different, and there may be aspects that don't resonate with what's going on in your life, but those feelings are what people will really resonate with. And we did all go through struggles, and we all found our own unique ways through those struggles, because it isn't a matter of getting over them, going under them, sort of trying to skirt around them. We have to go through them. And within that, we found ourselves, because ourself was buried under everything else that had been said to us, been done to us, that we'd witnessed, that it controlled us. And some of that control was ourselves controlling ourselves, because that monkey mind, that ego, was just trying to protect us. The trouble was, as I've said to my mind on occasions, excuse me, you're supposed to be protecting me, but the only one hurting me at the moment is you. Sort of. Oh, so folks, so we do get it. And we aren't necessarily all the way through, because that healing process goes on for years. Suddenly we think everything's fine, and then another layer comes up. We get it. We really do.
It's not linear.
So, no. And they say it's a spiral, and you will revisit where you've been, but you're obviously further up that spiral. You've got to a slightly better place, and there's a better place beyond that. So it's that, yeah, it is circular, but it's spiral. So yeah, it's absolutely. So any final words? So let's come to you, Scott, first, before we actually close.
The words I have are that this project, for those of you listening, was an immense undertaking. And Sara Jane pulled together, from her voluminous number of people that she collects, some absolutely incredible stories, incredible authors, and you're going to want to hear these stories. They'll hit home. We've all been there. We've all done that. And you'll be able to relate.
And Scott said here, and he's actually totally right, you can read the book, but there is a QR code in the back of the actual book, which means that you can go and listen to each of the authors read their own chapter. And if you buy the ebook, that QR code is in there as well. It's not an audio book. It's more like the CD, sort of whatever is modern, because I'm definitely not that modern. You can just pick a chapter, and you can go to the chapter, and you can listen to the authors read their own chapter. Michol, any final words?
I can echo Scott's words. I think that when you pick up this book, you're picking up real life experiences, what people have already been through it. And if you're hard-headed and you want to learn the hard way, that's cool. We've all been there, every one of us. And we're sharing it with you just in case it floats. I used to tell my kids, I'm telling you, even though I know you won't listen to me, so that at least it will. Oh, sorry about that. I'm telling you so that it will at least float around in the back of your mind, right? I want to tell you so that it's there. It's just there, and I told you. And someday you're going to choose to like look at the experiences of others and to step outside of yourself for a second and say, do I want to learn this the hard way? Wait a second. Didn't someone tell me something about this thing? Or didn't someone, I find when I read books like this, I find little nuggets. And that's I love the little nugget section. I find little nuggets in everything that I read. And maybe I don't put them into practice right away because that doesn't apply to me right now. And maybe it does, but I'm in denial. But when I'm ready, when my mind has time to process it, then I can pull those from the forefront. So really, I encourage anyone that's listening to give it a try. There's so many amazing authors, so many amazing stories, and maybe they won't all resonate, but certainly some of them will. I mean, that is almost a guarantee. And I just think that if it rolls around in there and it provides value to you now or in the future, then we're all so over the moon happy and grateful.
Well said.
Which is why we've done this. Absolutely why we've done it, because we've gone through that full journey. And if anything that we've shared can help you through yours, that's why we've done it. Thank you so much, Michol. Thank you so much, Scott. Folks, below where the video is, you will find a little bit of information, short bios for both Michol and for Scott, and links to their website. So if there's anything that they've said, anything that if you're intrigued by any of the guests who have shared in these episodes, please do check out their websites. Go, and if you feel like getting in touch with them, please do. We have done this because we care about people and wishing to be able to support people on their own journey with the experiences that we've had on our own. So please feel free to connect with anybody that resonates with you. And who knows where it will take you, but we hope that you'll be able to find yourselves. None of our lives are perfect, but find yourself in that happier, calmer place that we've all found ourselves in because of the journey we've been through. So thank you, both of you. Take care, folks. Be safe. Stay well. Namaste, sweet souls.